All right. I'm just scrolling through the chat here. He who looks outside dreams, he who looks inside awakes. Nice. And it's a little bit of both, right? You have to do a little bit of both. Ezra, yes, that's how I would describe it. Those are the words I would use too. And Danielle, you're on the same medicine wheel. Okay, welcome. Yeah, I met Violdo in 2005, I think it was, so a long time ago. He was a wonderful teacher, and he was the one who said, "There's no shaman police. No one's gonna follow you home and make sure you're doing this right. You're on your own integrity," which I really appreciate. So, and that's good advice for everybody. It's like I can pass along information to you, but at the end of the day, I want you to empower yourself to take this knowledge in and use it in the way that works best for you. I don't have all the answers. It's a big, vast universe out there. No one does. I mean, it's accessible. All right. So let's see. What else did I just say I was going to go over in case anyone, if I said something and you remember it and I've forgotten, shoot it in the chat. Energy centers clearing, dark energies. Okay, y'all want it? Yeah, a lot of people asking me how to gain energy. Yeah, clearing children's energy. Emily, thank you for reminding me. You do have the right to clear your children. I have found that up until about the age of 16, 17, 18, you can do it without notifying them. Makes a lot of sense. Until a child hits about age 7, they are still in the mother's energy field. So as a woman or a mother, and I would say I've never adopted children, but I have raised stepchildren. And in those early years, those young people are still those young beings are still within your energy field. So you're going to want to clear yourself and clear them at the same time. Particularly if children go out into the world, if you're one of those families where your children stay home until they are 5, 6, 7 to go to school. If they're in daycare or, hanging out, going to birthday parties, whatever, it's okay to clear their energy. You can open their little chakras when they're in the bathtub, in the shower. You can do all that. And then be mindful as they get a little older, they may want to have choice. For some children, it's a little earlier. I taught all of my children how to do this stuff. And my two children, I have one older stepdaughter and then my biological son, grew up in sweat lodges and ashrams and spiritual practices and traveling the world. So they got all this information, and for them, it's just what they do. So if you teach your children early enough to clear the energy body, then they'll automatically do it as they get older. It'll change generations that follow. So yeah, and it's very much the same. Mustafa, thank you for being here. If you've already gone, we'll see you soon if you're leaving. Drawing in energy, how to gain energy. Yeah, good question. Best way to gain energy is to go into the void, go into the quantum field and hang out there. The thing that saps our energy more than anything is the human experience, particularly if we are still in survival, particularly if we're still in those lower energy centers. It has nothing to do with clearing the energy centers. We can clear them out ad nauseum if we are not dealing with the like able to rise out of it and see what it feels like to be out of it, then we will continue to live in those cycles. So your best defense against any dark energies is to rise up into the quantum and hang out there as long as you can. Okay, you want to be in the unknown to have the new experience. Very much. And that's an energy gaining thing. And it's opposite of what you think. So for example, you're exhausted, right? And you wanted to sit down on your meditation cushion at 9 p.m. so that you could meditate for an hour, just sink into the sweet spot before you fall asleep. And then what happens is something comes up. And now it's 10:45 and you're like, no, I have to go to sleep. Physical body needs all this sleep. Or You don't want to get up early before work because you're going to be too tired. I have found 100% of the time for me, and you can try this out and see how it works for you, that when I go into meditation, even when I'm super exhausted, even if I pass out while I'm meditating, I will always find more energy in myself. So for example, got up early this morning, 5 o'clock, and I was dancing with my brain, having that moment where I was like, do I do the hour and a half one and cut it really close? Or do I do the hour and 15, or should I do 57 minutes? And I'm like, I just wasted 3 minutes thinking about this. So oftentimes the night before, I'll pick out a meditation, I'll open it on my phone, I'll set the phone fully charged, ready to go on the meditation cushion next to the pillow, headphones, everything ready to go. And I just fall off the bed into the cushion and start it, so that it's non-negotiable. And I did do the hour and 15-minute one this morning, so I feel extremely energized. So if you want to pull energy in, go into the void and hang out there for a while. I do Blessings of the Energy Center every single morning. That is my go-to. And I love the newer ones, the more advanced ones. I often find now when I'm doing the older Dr. Joe Dispenza meditations, I get bored because he's talking a lot, and I don't need that many words anymore. But if you do, continue wherever you are. But I'll do the more advanced ones so that I can, I want to hop in there and I want to get down to business. That's how I roll. And yeah, it's just my personality though. And I love doing it. I have a tremendous amount of discipline. I was a gymnast as a child. I did that all the way. I was highly competitive. And anyway, if you have a body of discipline somewhere in you, use it until you don't need it anymore. Now I crave being on the meditation cushion. I love it. Can't get enough. Okay, Connie, Dr. Joe spoke into the energy from the hands coming from a plexus of nerves in the shoulders. Yeah, I always considered the hands being their own energy centers. They are. They're all the energy centers are connected. Period, end of story. We can look at them as individuals for the sake of clearing or the sake of intention. So I say this because when I do shamanic work and shamanic healing with clients, which is extremely rare, I don't do it very much anymore. I always refer people out. I'm doing other things now. Oftentimes an affinity for something. So say someone comes to me and they want to work specifically on trauma that they have with their whatever in childhood, Uncle Bob. Right. And so we go through the story, the narrative, and then I am energetically fishing around in their energy center because they're not yet able to do it themselves. Otherwise, they wouldn't be calling me. I'll fish around in the energy center looking for where it is located. It's always associated with one of the energy centers. And maybe it is sexual trauma, but that doesn't mean it's going to be associated with 1 and 2. It could be the hands. It could be anywhere, honestly, any energy center. So I want to open my awareness to the possibility and separate out those energy centers for certain purposes. But as you get more advanced, you will start to see that when you clear the energy centers, they are literally all connected to like the hundreds and hundreds of them that are in your body. Does that answer your question?
That was how I understood it and how I've used them for 30 years. So when he said it like didn't come through your body, it was a nerve thing and there it shows up in your hands. I was like, man, for 30 years, all that stuff's been going right through me, through the chakras, through the nadis, and the meridians doing a dance with all that. And I was like, well, maybe science, maybe that's an easy way for someone else to understand it that hasn't had the experiences we've had.
Yeah. So I'm going to then bounce a little bit off that and talk about the blue healers. So I've mentioned in some of my other talks that I'm in regular communication now with the blue healers. I saw the ones from Dr. Joe Dispenza's retreat specific to that in June. I saw another set in the advanced follow-up in September. These are both Dr. Joe Dispenza retreats. If there's anyone on the call who doesn't know who that is, go ahead and give them a Google, Dispenza. So the blue healers that I saw when they came in, I mentioned this before, they were in the room and there was meditation going on, but definitely during the coherence healings. And what I saw was that their hands looked like, in my your brain always tries to create a category for something that you already know. I saw it like a horse hoof. because I do work with horses too. And I was like, that is so weird. Trying not to bounce out of my meditation, I was like, okay, horse hoof, just lodge it in there and keep moving on. But when I looked a little bit more closely, it wasn't that. It was exactly what you're talking about. These hands were massive, and they were energy centers themselves that were the source of the healing. And in that experience I had in the first uh, in June at the retreat, in the first coherence healing, I was in communication with the blue healer from the day before when I first had communication with her. No gender, but she was female to me, because I am not yet to the they part as an English teacher. I get a little glitch on the plural pronoun for a singular. Anyway, got a long way to go for that. Been a teacher a long time, 30 years. Yeah, gotta unwire it. The hands for that being were massive, and they decided they were going to help me learn more about my own nature as a healer. With permission, she drove her hands in through the backs of my wrists and into my own hands so that I could feel what that sense was like. So yeah, they were an individual thing, the hands themselves, and there was no energy going between them. It was localized, yeah, and
Right.
massive. So then my hands look giant.
You always talk about it's like my hands are catcher's mitts.
Yeah,
That's exactly,
that's
yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, catcher's mitts. That's a good visual too. So whatever works for you. And they were glowing, bluish white, luminous.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat there and shook the entire time because my human body was like, "What the heck? What's going
Yeah.
on here?"
Yeah. Have that energy moving.
And I was like, "I'm hanging on. I got this." It was like a roller coaster. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That's a wonderful part of the conversation. Appreciate it. Okay, let's see. I feel like the top of my head is burning while meditating. I also feel a kind of fire in my lower back. Why is the energy feeling so strong? Any ideas? Yeah, yeah. And anyone else who does energy medicine can chime in here. So the first thing that comes to mind for me is there is a need for there to be a concentration of energy in those areas. So when I was at the retreat in June and I was sitting in meditation, and my intention was often healing. So I don't know if you're putting out the intention for healing your physical body. And it's not, like I said, it's not always attached to the same thing. I may have a kidney issue, but I may find that the energy is most intense here. Or like I said, I did a healing with the blue healers once, and it was my right hip. Made no sense. I was like, I'm working on my right kidney, but my right hip was on fire. And I thought, well, I'm just going to let that be what it is. So um, I do think that when we sit in meditation and we have an intention, whether we are consciously aware of it or not, and that energy will pool up in certain areas for the benefit of the healing of the body, because we don't know where our psyche, okay, this is where we're starting to talk very human here, our psyche will lodge things in certain places. And sometimes what happens too, for those of you who have done any shamanic work, something called soul retrieval, soul parts will split off when we experience trauma, and they will go float around somewhere in our energy field. And that could be like my particular soul part, one of them that left and got stuck, was like always up in this right hand corner of my energy field. And I could access that child part of myself, that soul part, where it would stay lodged up here. But until I figured out how to pull it back in and integrate it through the heart so that it was then reinforming my cells as part of me. So not like I had stepped on a grenade and there were pieces of me flung everywhere in my energy field, where I learned to consolidate all those soul parts back in. And that's through energy work. This is very human stuff, but it's all energy. And I pulled them all back in. I could draw that power for myself. So my thought is, when you have energy pooling somewhere, it's my intuition in the moment. Other people, you have your intuition too. I'd love to hear your thoughts. When I pull those energy parts back in, it could be a soul part that's attempting to reintegrate. So your intention may be healing, and it may be like, I want my cancer to go away. But what's happening is, when you put out the intention for healing, it might be, okay, well, we got to get everything else back in order first, right? There's a reason that there is dis-ease or illness in the body. And sometimes we need to dial back through time. Dr. Joe always says he doesn't tell anyone to process because that's not his function, but I do believe that some of us need to dial back. We need to look at that. That's just not what he does. He's offering us something different. And what we need to also understand is there will be reflection. but you need to be able to go into the unknown in order to have the new experience. And that's his wheelhouse, 100%. So as I began, like I said, drawing back those areas where there was deep energy, like I'm feeling it in my shoulder right now for some reason, something going on related to the conversation there that I'll investigate later. But when we start feeling energy pooling up in some area of the body, there's a reason for it. You don't need to try to think it through. Just sit with it, observe it, maybe ask it a question like, hey, what are you? Because then there are also other things that could be happening as well. So pull and intuit the information for yourself. That's most important. And if you're unable to do that at this time, and that's totally okay, because these skills are like any other practice. We learn, we hear, we gather information, and then we take it into ourselves and we're like, okay, what does it mean for me? And I encourage everyone to empower themselves with those questions and answers. Like, see what those parts of the body are saying to you. Lower back, there's also Louise Hay. I don't know if you haven't read that. Check out that book, You Can Heal Your Life. She has this wonderful little glossary in the back. Louise Hay was the founder of Hay House Publishing, and she kind of was on the forefront of getting information out there. Little glossary in the back of her book that talks about the body parts and what she believed they meant. And you can also bring that up on the internet, like, what is pain in my low back or energy in my, yep, exactly. Connie's holding it up. What does that mean? And maybe it'll resonate with you and maybe not. If it works, great. If not, throw it out. There's no need to try to make something fit that doesn't feel right. And just because it doesn't feel right today doesn't mean it won't tomorrow or next week or 2 years from now. So I pick up that book. Actually, I keep giving mine away. I had like 4 copies, but I just pass them on. I tell someone about it, I'm like, here, check it out. So I don't even have her book on my shelf right now because I just handed away another one of mine. That, and I have like a box of Joe Dispenza books. I give those away too. I'm a nerdy teacher, sorry. Okay, so does anyone else have anything they want to add to that? Connie?
Yes, I would add that energy is neither created nor destroyed. So that a lot of times when my clients have heat like that, we're literally either incinerating a lower vibrating frequency, right, and turning it into a higher frequency, or simply incinerating it. I talk about the body being a combustion engine, or any of those centers being combustion engines. And it's possible that that lower vibrating energy, that blockage, whatever you want to think about it, the trauma, is literally alchemizing, that it can alchemize into a higher frequency, or simply, Mary Magdalene was the one that taught me that, just to incinerate those lower vibrating frequencies, and then they, they turn into, if you like to think about it as smoke, how energy, is goes into its next form. So I loved that. And I remember her saying when I was clearing rooms and stuff, I said, should I put this in the earth? And she goes, no, your frequency is this is for all of you. Your frequency is so much higher than that than that negative energy you're pulling from the room. Just incinerate it. And I can remember the first time that I actually felt what that was like to use your own energy. So that's a fun little technique for all of us to use. I'm complete.
Thanks. Thank you, Connie. Fabulous. Yes, incinerating. So that brings me to one more thought, which is related to the energy center. And I'm also wanting to be mindful of time. Is that the energy, Dr. Joe talks about the energy going up the spine, right? When we do the breath work. And I don't know how many of you feel this, but you start to get hot, right? And it's that same process. Human experiences and things get lodged in the central nervous system. So when we are drawing the energy up the spine, and there's also a technique of just any kind of breath work will do this. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. You're not only rising the energy up the spine, but you are dislodging things that are hanging out there. So a lot of times things will hang out in the central nervous system. And when you create heat and energy like that, as you rise up the spine, you push those little things. They can be entities or all kinds of stuff, memories, etc. You're pushing them out through the nerves so that then they're going to activate somewhere so that you can process and remove. Yeah, so great. Yeah, that heat process. Love it. Okay. Danielle, thank you. Or Daniel, thank you. If I missed you and you're not still here, goodbye. Ezra, yeah, next level athletes. I know. Gymnastics saved my life. Honestly, it really did. I'll tell that story another time. Yeah, I know. Look at Simone Biles. She's just unbelievable, right? Okay. Next question. I don't put in any intention. Okay. You don't have to. Often forget about it. Yeah, the field takes care of you. You do have intentions in there because we have thoughts all the time. We just don't realize that we're actually putting it out there. Ezra, sorry to ask this again. I got kicked out when you were talking about it. Fifth center. Why does one pass out? Yeah. Um, um, I often wondered why I passed out. I used to say it because I was going deep. I would this happened in my shamanic training too, where I'd be like, oh, I'm doing the things, and then on the floor. Thank goodness I sit on a cushion on the floor, right? Because I don't hurt myself. I just kind of flip over. Um, I do think that the physical body has its limitations more than the energy body. And sometimes the physical body, in its efforts to integrate, will need to do a shutdown. I use the computer as an example a lot. We have 1,000 tabs open. I must have 30 tabs open on my laptop right now as we speak. You have 30 tabs open, and eventually the system starts to get bogged down, right? And it says to you, I'm just going to flicker a little bit, or I'm not going to let you connect to the internet today, even though your internet's working fine. Or, you click on something and you get the spinning wheel for like 3 straight minutes, and your computer's basically saying, I need a restart. Just restart me. And so for me, my experience always has been when I lose consciousness, which I'm not technically losing consciousness, my physical body is losing consciousness, but the rest of me is still doing something, is that it is literally like a shutdown. It'll just reboot and you come back. Start to see how you feel after you lose consciousness if it happens too frequently. Is try to check prior to and right after what your sensations in your body are. What am I feeling, thinking? Because I do think also there's a defense mechanism in there that could kick in as well. But that's a story for another time. I'd like to think that you're just shutting down and reintegrating, but I do think that there is also the human defense mechanism where it's like, I'm not ready to go there yet. So I'm going to close you down. You're going to come back, and when you're actually ready, we're going to get there. So I see this a lot in shamanic work. People fall asleep during their sessions. It's because their cognitive functioning is not ready to take in the data that I am getting. And I have to be super delicate with how I deliver it. So that's just side information. But I don't want anyone to grab onto the fear factor. So try to stick to the positive, but notice what you're feeling just prior to passing out, because we always have an awareness there. You can always dial back your memories as well. After you come to, you can be like, okay, what was happening the moment before I passed out? Okay, what symbols do I use for the energy centers? Anya, good question. They do change a lot based on what my intentions are, but if I'm doing one of the blessings of the energy centers with symbols, and if you haven't done that, it is kind of fun. I use the tree of life, upper and lower, the inverted for my first energy center always. That's not changed yet, but it could today or tomorrow. In my second energy center, often my symbol has to do with a fully and completely healed organ system, which includes my skin, because I'm working on a lot of healing. I told you I had chronic migraines for more than 10 years, where I was almost completely bedridden for about 4 of those. And a lot of side effects happened. I had a lot of side conditions involved in that, including chronic candida, depression, acid reflux, renal failure, issues with my nerves. So yeah, so little by little, I am working through all of that. I have gotten the pain gone from the migraines. So my second energy center is often focused on that symbol. These wholly and completely healed organ systems, 100%. Third energy center fluctuates a lot. For anyone who's ever done empowering the power within meditation, where you hear bagpipes, I have some lineage in Scotland, so I often see Highlanders and bagpipes. I don't know why. It's random, but there it is. Fourth energy center is the caduceus, with a heart that has wings and flames. My imagery. Again, a lot of my focus tends to be on physical healing. So you'll see images in there. The flaming heart is combustion with love. So exactly what Connie was talking about. Light that stuff up and burn it off. but I want to do it with love. I don't want to burn everything else in the process. I'm not trying to burn down the village. Just want to eliminate the pain and the suffering within me, my physical body. Throat, man, the throat is so complex, and it's my favorite energy center to work on right now. And this will be the last topic I bring up, is how the energy centers appeared to me from the blue healers. And that's what I see in this energy center every single time. So when the blue healer put her hands in through mine, and I had these mittens of light and love, or whatever it was, and healing going in my hands, and my body was shaking, I saw the energy centers as kaleidoscopes, so fractal geometry. And instead of being bluish, they were more purple opalescent. And that image just kept going. If you've ever done any fractal images online, and you generate one of those and you watch it, it's just utterly mesmerizing. It's a kaleidoscope, essentially, that spirals and changes. And it simultaneously, it looked like a mirror. So I could look into it and see it in 3 dimensions. So it was spinning this way, kind of like an orb, essentially, of that 3D motion, kind of going in all directions. And then also, if I wanted to, I could see it as being like a flat mirror, almost like a hockey puck, that was luminous. So that shape, though, and not that thick, very thin, thin and like that around, like a mirror right there. Depending on what I was asking. So that's the image I see is my kaleidoscope, my very specific one that is based on the mathematical computation or equation. It would be my personal fractal. And I see that everywhere in my body. So she showed me where all of the energy centers were, and it was vast. So it seemed like millions of them all over my physical body, but definitely in each of the energy centers. And they remain there today. And I work with that energy very consciously when I'm doing blessings of the energy centers. 6, this one's interesting. I have a deep connection because I have some history with some splice DNA. So I call in the ancestors from my origins, and they all come together in that 6th image. And then the 7th is almost always just an open space. Light, almost like a searchlight. It's like I'm just winging it out there, looking for information. Yeah. So those are the symbols that I use today. They change, but those are the ones I've been using the last few days. And you can use your own, of course. Please do. Passing out more next time? Sure. Reach out to me individually in the chat, and I'll talk more about the passing out thing. I know that it's frightening, especially the first couple of times. But then after you get used to it, you're like, oh, I'm just taking a little nap. Just kind of shutting down. Yeah. And then you'll learn how to kind of pass out while you're still aware. That'll shut down, and your awareness will just be floating around. Not an out-of-body experience per se, but you'll be able to quell that fear in the body. Again, fear is nobody's friend. And the more we breathe into that and illuminate it and allow ourselves to feel safe, the better. Yeah. Yeah, because fear is false education appearing real. It's one of the acronyms. Do I feel the fluid rising? Anya, yes, as I'm breathing, doing breathing exercises, but I don't even need the breath anymore. I can do it without the breath now. So I was in a meditation the other day, and leaving me alone with spa music for an hour and a half, get busy doing other stuff. So I practiced that for, a full hour while I was being massaged. It's like, oh, I bet I could raise the energy without having to do the whole thing and kind of freak out the massage therapist, because that is something I would do, is like, I'm just going to do my thing. You keep massaging me, don't worry about it. But I did have an AirPod in one ear with just meditation music, and I was working on that skill, and I was like, oh, okay, I figured it out in an hour. I got it. It's good. But yeah, I do feel it. How does it feel? It literally feels like energy rising. It's like a warming sensation, almost a damp warming sensation for anyone with Chinese medicine background. It feels damp, there's moisture, and I feel heat. And it rises up, and I can feel it from the base of the spine, from like the tailbone, all the way up to the top of the head. And yeah, and I can leave it in the pineal gland. I also have been working lately with dancing the pineal gland and the pituitary together. I was like, what if I just maybe join that energy? I don't know. I'm experimental though. I go off script a lot. And then I always, like, I'm super ordered too. I always come back to the basics. So when I hit the edge of the envelope and I'm like, okay, I gotta go back to basics. So I do that a lot too. I'm big on the telescoping. All right. Yeah, Ezra, if you're smelling things, that is not uncommon. For many years, I had stents, and when I worked with clients, I would smell stuff in their past lives, like war scenes or blood or dead bodies or just, and that would come before I would get imagery sometimes, and I'd be like, okay, where are we? And what year are we? And a lot of times smell or vision. Smelling oxygen could be good. I'd investigate that. Ask where it's coming from. Could be past life stuff. Could be now. Be like, yeah, bring me more oxygen. Oxygenating in your cells. Really could be anything. Yeah. So I'd love to hear what you come up with, and healers can always pull you in with this kind of stuff. Let's see, what else? Anya, one more question. Jan, you said that after living as a monk in Tibet, you reincarnated on Earth as a volunteer. Did you have a body in the meantime? So asking for what happens between lives, I think, is the question. And there's a little bit of crossover, Anya, in those two concepts. My previous lifetime was as a monk in Tibet. I reincarnated in this lifetime in this body. And I didn't come back. I came very involuntarily. As a monk, I was supposed to have maintained my practice so that I could have made conscious choices about where I would have been born. And that did not happen because I lost focus. I came to Earth as a volunteer. So, and we're talking 65,000 years ago. So that was a long time ago. I say it very matter of factly because it's memories that I've gotten kind of in that past life regression stuff. So reach out to me, Anya, directly in the chat, or one-on-one. Any of you can reach out to me in Telegram one-on-one. It's totally fine. I don't mind at all. I'll do my best to answer all your questions in a timely manner. And I'm happy to answer questions in either place. But let's talk about that as another subject so that we don't take up any more time. I think it's always looking at 90 minutes. It's 8:30. There are meditations happening in about 30 minutes, which I think that the space will open for that soon so that you can do all the intros. Thank you all again for being here. I appreciate you all so much. Mahalo from the island of Hawaii. I hope you have a wonderful day, evening, afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and sending you tons of aloha.